Hey folks, I'm back. Um, I know this is not the happiest um, conversation to have, and I know this is a grainy thing. I'm sort of sitting in the dark, hence the information that I need to bring to you. When I think of research, specifically in the Black community, my mind goes immediately to Tuskegee. And while that may be a very small scope of thinking, it's where I was. And when I participated in the MACA or the Maya Angelou Center for Health Equity study, well, it wasn't a study, it was actually the caregiver course that was put on through the Wake Forest School of Medicine MACA Center, which is the Maya Angelou Center for Health Equity. I felt, we had good discussion, and I really felt strongly um, not to participate in any kind of um, research. Since then, I have been, actually, it's before, I had received a medication. And when I read all the fine print, it said not for Black people. And I was sort of taken aback by that. But then I realized that unless we are the participants in studies, and I'm still hesitant on this because I know they need to study people. However, having and being in this journey with my mother and going to the senior services centers and seeing the deterioration of our elderly population who were um, very vibrant beings at times in their lives, you have so many questions and you want so many answers, but those answers are not going to be derived unless we participate in these various studies. I'm not saying just go and sign up willy-nilly. It's not for money. It's for research. And so, that being said, I sat in on a think tank. I've actually sat in on a couple of think tanks. And I want to read to you, and I've mentioned these before, but I want to read to you something. And I'm not trying to change your mind. What I'm trying to do is provide you with some education and you make your own decision. I know this is a weird position I'm sitting in. So, before we got started on the think tank, you have to sign a waiver basically saying that you understand what you're here for. And I'm going to read to you parts of the information and share with you facts that I learned, not hearsay, not um, subjective, but very objective information. So, the summary says the Maya Angelou Center for Health Equity is looking for African Americans to participate in a focus group. That's what I was in. That will help MACA, which is the Maya Angelou Center for Health Equity, researchers validate brain tissue donation educational materials. So basically, we looked at the literature that they have put together and we made changes and revisions and gave our take on the information that is going to be put out in the Black community locally. It's not for all over, but something like this may be happening in your community. Now, this is different than the roster that is out there that people can participate in studies, some of which are paid, some of which are not. To sit on this think tank, I must say that there was a $50 gift card. And in my present condition, I'm taking all kinds of opportunities. Plus, if we don't sit at the table and help uh, decide on the information that is going to come out into our community, we lose our voice. And so, the purpose of this study in particular was to increase the knowledge and awareness of Alzheimer's disease, to develop expanded, I'm going to read from here, develop an expanded foundation for understanding the perceptions and attitudes of African Americans about participation in Alzheimer's disease and brain tissue donation research. And the third point was to develop an education program about brain tissue donation research that is based on the beliefs and ideas of African American individuals and communities. So that's spot on um, why I felt uh, it was the right time to participate. Because if we are not helping to create the information and the educational resources that are going to come out into our community. And I must say that many of the people on this particular study are African American women. And seen as we tend to be the caregivers, I felt it was very appropriate and necessary that we sit on this focus group. So, um, what we did in participating in this focus group, we validated by giving our input to these educational materials and the marketing strategies that they would use to get this information out into the Black communities on brain tissue donation. So, um, what I learned is that put my notes here. Alzheimer's is the seventh leading cause of death because once they're all fit under the umbrella of dementia, right? And what we called senility before has a new name in some cases because we don't know what the symptoms are. We just think something's wrong with them, which it is, but they can't help it. So, all the questions. And while it does work your nerve, you learn how to deal with that. I must say, I have been thoroughly blessed because the stage that my mother is in her journey is very, I don't want to say shallow, but it's very um, minute at this stage where she is. You can progress down that stage from dementia, and there's all different sorts of it. You can look that up. Of dementia. depending on where it impacts the brain. It could be a speech thing. Some people don't speak. Some people are very emotive. Some people are not emotive. It just depends on where the tangles are in their brain, what parts are impacted. And so, in order to help specifically the African American community, because we historically have not gone in when something is wrong for a multitude of reasons, they're asking for donations for people's brain. So, one of the things we talked about largely during the discussion was what the body will look like when they um, take the brain. They take it from the very back of the head so that you can still have open caskets if that is your desire. Um, you cannot, once they take it, once the brain is harvested, they bring the body back to the funeral home so they can finish prepping it. Now, here's the thing. Um, this has to be harvested 12 to 24 hours after death. So let's just paint a scenario. I'm here in North Carolina. There is a brain bank here. So the steps, the process would work with my loved one dies or your loved one passes away. If a brain bank, and you have to notify, you have to share and tell this information up front. So as your person is aging and they are declining, this conversation needs to be had. And it needs to be had several times because lately I've been hearing about lots of deaths and the families are at odds with each other because either all parties are not on the same page. And so then when something like this comes up, everybody needs to be on the same page. And even when you have the conversation, once that incident happens and the person transitions, people's ideas, people's feelings, they get caught up in the emotions and they don't want to do what might be the um, wishes of the loved one. They need to be a part of that conversation before, clearly, before they transition so that the family can carry out their wishes. Now, um, specifically, I spoke to the African American community, but the rates um, are up in the Latino and African American communities for dementia. And so, because there is no cure at the moment, we're projecting into our, is it posterity? Yes, our legacy, our children and our children's children's children, so that a cure or something could be done to prevent even this deadly, devastating disease from going through a family. I go to my support groups and I listen to the stories of people. Um, I just got emotional when I said that because people's lives are changed forever. Families' lives, it breaks families apart because it's hard to see your loved one, or as I say, my shero, not be the same person that they were. And because we're living longer, we are coming upon um, medical illnesses that we just never really dealt with in the past. So, back to the discussion that needs to take place in families. All the key players need to be there. It needs to be a unanimous decision on what is going to happen in families. Because the last thing you want to be having is people fighting rather than celebrating someone's life. We're arguing, and we're arguing over our personal stuff. We're still here, they're not. And they're gone on to a better place. And depending on your spiritual preference, beliefs, paradigms, they are not in pain. They have access to their full faculties wherever it is that they are going. And what right do we have to prevent them from? We have to release them. They live their life. That is not the time to, that's my own preferences. That's not the time to be selfish. So here in Winston-Salem, there is a brain bank at Wake Forest's School of Medicine. And let's say I have not, but let's say my mother decides she wants to help the research field, specifically for the African American community, to find out more research. And because this devastating disease is so varied, just because you have dementia, your dementia can be very different from another person's dementia. And there is no straight way, like you have a heart attack, they know how to pretty much help get you back on your feet. With dementia, it's so different from case to case. And when they do the brain scans and see what's going on, it's so very different. So the more brains they have to look at, and not just disease brains, but they're asking for normal brains as well, because that will help them determine what is going on in the disease brain as versus to the, as I should say, as compared to a normal brain or a brain that does not have evidence of dementia or Alzheimer's in it. But what happens is they do all their analysis and study and research on the brain, and then they will provide the family with a report. It takes 9 months right now because they're not just looking at one thing, they're looking at lots of different things. I was in the science field and we had to dissect animals and cadavers and things like that. And so you're not just like in a cutting people up. They're running all kinds of tests on different parts of the brains so that they can come up with some type of pattern, see what kind of chemicals are there, what the brain tissue and matter is doing. And so it's not just a one and done type thing. It is a very, very detailed um, research. And so some of the questions that were on this list of paper, and I did ask if I could share things um, with you all. So let me get to the questions part. Oh, that was from my emotional piece. Get that sinuses going. So here are some of the questions. And this is how they started. We at the Maya Angelou Center for Health Equity are asking permission from you to participate in a focus group, told you, that will help MACA researchers validate brain tissue donation educational materials that were developed from the perceptions and attitudes of brain tissue donation among African Americans. Research studies are designed to gain scientific knowledge that may help you and other people like you in the future. So why is this study being done? Okay, said that. How many people will take part in the study? So they say approximately 30 African American males and or females are expected to participate in this study. Um, so they're doing different focus groups. They've done two already, and they have one more to do with about 8 to 10 participants in there. What is involved in the study? So um, the African American participation, you're being invited to the focus group to validate the materials. How long will I be in the study? It was about 2 hours that we had to sit and discuss this information and pass out. They passed out materials that we had to critique. So, of course, there weren't any risks because we were just sitting there talking. But and I guess we could not release the information because they're still working on it. When I say release the information, I'm meaning all the materials that we went through and studied. Um, and then you needed to, well, I guess you got a lot of information. We went over things. A lot of it was repeat for me because I had gone through the caregiver college. However, even from September of last year when I participated in the study, new things have come out. Um, I did not know there were about 20, uh, did they say 24 brain banks around? I do know, and this was one of the questions that we asked is you don't pay for anything if you go to these brain banks. That is not a fee that you have to incur. Your loved one dies if you decide to have them donate their brain to science. Person is they come and pick the body up or they do it excuse me at a facility if there is a facility that is where the brain bank, so for instance at Wake Forest School of Medicine, they would come there, they would transport the body there, do the extraction, take the body back to the nursing home or wherever it is going to be. If someone's going to be cremated, then they go ahead and cremate the person, and then take the remains back to the people. If they're going to have an open casket, then the open casket, the person, they take it back to the funeral home, they prepare the body. You would not even know that it happened. It's not like there's some hollow head, you can't see the eyes, but they prepare the body respectfully so that they could have an open casket funeral if that's what you choose. Some people still choose to have a closed casket, but that fee for all of that is not incurred by the people. It's all taken care of. So that was something like we sort of giggled about that because we know that, we're going to ask that question, who's paying for this? And so hopefully, but because of that, more people will be inclined. My nose is running, sorry, to participate in the study or the donation of the brain to the brain bank because there is no fee for that particular part. You still have to pay for your whole funeral and all this stuff. They don't take care of that. But I know I'm still it depends on the day. It depends on how I'm feeling of my intake of this information. I do understand the importance of it. It is highly, highly important for us to become involved in things before the person transitions. It goes back to having a plan, making sure communication is clear between the family members or whomever is the person that's going to be making the executive decisions for that person. It's only fair. Get their desires written down. Some states you got to get it notarized. Find out what it is that you need to do so that you can celebrate that person's life when it is time for them to leave this plane. And there's no arguing and yelling and people upset, but use that this time being present, enjoying each other. Get out all the issues now because that's the time to just really uplift that person and talk about their life and truly, truly celebrate them so that they can truly leave leave this place with all people on board to send them off with love and dignity. They deserve that. So, um, that's pretty much all I have. When we get the information, I will definitely share it with you all. But the biggest ones were, like I said, the finances. What are they going to look like? Are they going to mangle the body? It will be done with such dignity and respect, but it's not only going to put the family at ease. You'll find out 9 months later, I know, but you're helping science specifically for the African American community, for the Latino community, because, like I said, historically, we just get left, or they do anyway without our knowledge. And that is not acceptable. So I got into teaching because I saw there was some things I didn't agree with. There's still things I don't agree with, which well, I'm not teaching. I walk that path. You have to be willing to stand up. And I am learning more and more. And the way things are, families are strapped. There's not a lot of things out there. So I know I have a very tender spot in my heart to make sure that families have someone to advocate for them, at least have some information to educate yourself, check out your facilities, make yourself known, um, find out as much as you can about how to work with them because everybody's timeline is different. Even if you have your loved one has dementia, everybody's timeline is different. That starts the clock to ticking, but you don't know when they'll move into the next phase because there are several phases that go in that lead them to Alzheimer's. They have medications now that can slow things down, but there still is no cure. And just like you see these all these commercials that come on TV, contraindications. I know we've stopped mom from medications that they said was supposed to help. I just was not comfortable with what I was seeing, how she was changing, and when she came off, I saw a difference. I've given you all the information for Dr. De Leon Canterbury, the deprescriber. It is well worth the money to have him assess the medications that your loved one is on because sometimes they could be the culprit. And so I've been super busy um, with mom and really helping to, and I need to do more. Well, not need, I will do more, and I am doing more to help put the word out there. And if you don't know something, keep searching until you find someone to help you move past that area that you are unfamiliar with or uncomfortable with. Seek out a support group. I don't like hang out with people, but it is and has helped me to just know that I'm not alone. We have each other's numbers if we need to call people up. Every once in a while, somebody will pop in my head and I'll just call them up. Hey, how you guys doing? Mom is with me usually everywhere I go. So people have gotten to know her and know me. And they ask about her when we go swimming. A couple times she doesn't come. And as of late, she's been wanting to come all the time. It's a little scary to me because one of the things that I learned in the um, caregiver class is that toward the end, it's almost like they present themselves as being not clairvoyant, but they become very clear where they were always very foggy and could not put things together. They become very much like themselves. And so that's something I've been wrestling with and just really trying to focus on the laughter. We have lots of laughter here. Um, Encouraging her to get up and walk. She does it sometimes on her own, and she used to do a lot of walking when she first came to stay with me. And so I try not to read into things, and let me fix that. Cancel, delete, cancel, delete. I stay present. Do I still get upset? Sometimes, but that recovery is so much quicker because I know she's doing the best she can. So I really try, oops, said it again. I really work diligently to expose her to as many things. Actually, Friday, we went to something I have always wanted to do, and it was a first for her as well. We went and watched a movie outside under the stars, not like drive-in, like we were literally sitting in a parking lot and they had one of those blow-up screens. That was a new thing for her and for myself. And we had our little chairs and they had food trucks out there. We watched Jumanji. She enjoyed that. And it was just really cool. We had our blanket. It went from hot when that sun was up to, you know, how it's cold. It was like camping. And we just had a blast. They had a orchestra out there, or a swing time orchestra, and that was really great. She asked me to dance several times. She asked a couple other people to dance, and so like it was really cool. Uh, I felt like we were at Girl Scout camp or something, sitting out snuggled up under a blanket, watching a movie. Only thing missing was a bonfire. But I know she thoroughly enjoyed that. I enjoyed spending the time with her and just being present. So I just want to share with you all sort of what's been going on. I will be working on the brains and talking about the different parts. Got a little sidetracked. We went down to Texas and she was able to hang out with some friends down there and we're planning a trip to Florida. Trying to decide if I want to ride, do that. I think that's about a 10-hour trip or so, depending to Punta Gorda from where we are. Might have to make a couple of stops, but just working on that. Ugh, that was my knee pop. And then the other thing, she wants to go to Spain. So did y'all know that Costco has a travel department? So I did a cursory check on a 9 day, a 9 night or whatever trip to Spain. We go into Madrid, Seville, and then Barcelona, and you fly out of Barcelona, or you can go the opposite way. 3 nights at 3 different hotels. You get to pick what you want. And it was under, I want to say $5,000. It included round trip tickets, your train tickets, and your hotel stay. And I think breakfast at each one and maybe a couple dinners. I was floored. That's something she says she's always wanted to do is to go to Spain. Since some movie or some song or something she said came out. But I just wanted to update y'all. Start thinking about that. That's another one of those puzzle pieces that has to be put together before the end of um, their life. And quite honestly, I've learned a lot because I don't have any kids, and I'm thinking, what is my end of life plan going to be? I need to get working on that. But these are all the things that we just nobody really talks about, at least in the Black community. Um, we work, you make your money, you spend your money, and because most of these plans they have, they, inflation, can you say inflation? They don't get you very far. So Can't believe it's June, but we started this journey, me just sharing because it was a way for me to talk. And then I've learned that, my journey is helping others. And for that, I am humbled. Um, and thank you for listening to me ramble. But I've been needing to get back in touch with y'all. And I don't know what happened with that stupid Facebook. When I could not find it. So I love you all. You're all in my prayers, um, because it's hard, it's hard, and I encourage you to just stay present. And we all gonna make mistakes. Do the best you can for them to be comfortable, and keep laughter in your life. Keep laughter in your life. Kisses. Good night, 'cause it's way past my bedtime. Love you all. Peace.